Hey everybody, another kind of what if video. Um, some people have put videos out there, and I mean, I personally have not ever played Changli, but I have played Jin Shi a bit, and let's look at some splash art model. And this is gonna be more. I mean, it's gonna hit on Jin C. We might have a little talk about Camellia, and then we're definitely gonna be talking about Rover in this clip. Basically, I guess a lot of the stuff about Changli is, I mean, I wouldn't say people are saying she came out too soon, but basically her kit isn't up to speed pretty much. Like, I think they're saying she should have had more of a like basically her and Camellia should have flip flopped, which I mean I could kind of agree with that. Like Camellia might, I mean I like Camellia. I play Camellia a lot. I like the way she is bigger DPS type, and I wouldn't want to change her for anything. But if you look at the time periods, it probably would have made more sense if just to get that fusion DPS, like, or yeah, I think that's what you call it, the main DPS, like how Camellia's main DPS, Jinshi does a lot of damage, Carlotta does a lot of damage. It's because they're the main DPSs, and then you can get buffers to them. But then, I guess the other, I guess the whole, not really argument, but the suggestion with that was switching Camellia's kit, which I mean, I would love to see a Changli just blow up fire everywhere. And I don't know if that's what she already does because I don't have her. Hopefully, I get her soon. Um, but it'd be pretty cool to have seen her as a main DPS. And I guess my argument with it all is it seems like the biggest argument was there isn't a lot of. I mean, if you be completely honest, the fusion we have compared to the other elements like we have currently, like the other elements just have more of that synergy. Like you can't really use fusion as well. And I'm not talking about Changli mains. I'm sure Changli mains get what they need done and get it done, but I don't think you're going to be the typical player is going to have a lot better time using like Carlotta or Jinshi. I mean, even Camellia is probably going to be able to do a lot more damage compared to Changli. And I mean, I think it's more of like Changli is I don't know, she, and people could agree with me this, or you could argue with me in the comments or suggest why you think otherwise if you were a Changli main. Um, and I can't, and like I said, I need some Changli mains to kind of uh, point me in a right direction if I'm overstepping what I'm saying. But I think that Changli was built more for that sub type character thing, according to what I've seen on her kit and how people say she should be played. Whether that is true or not, you can correct me. But like the fact, like you could potentially put Camellia in a team where, I mean, it probably wouldn't even matter. You could have whatever healer, whatever uh, sub DPS. You could even use Zeishi. I've used Zeishi with Camellia just to try to do stuff before. And I mean, it will reduce her damage, but it's not going to affect what her output, I guess, is. Where Changli, I think, is built more for buffing, yeah, amplifying the damage. Which I mean, it's not like Camellia's gonna amplify damage. You can clearly see that right here. And then Jinchi's obviously main damage dealer, resonant skill damage, and then we got Rover. Um, he's kind of just like everything, I guess. But I guess the thing was switching. Like these two should have had their things switched, and I mean that is a good suggestion. I think another thing is maybe they should have flip flopped when they were released. Maybe release Camellia before Changli, and they could have just gave us that little like taste of what Changli is, but then release her either after Shorekeeper or during the 1.3 banners. But I mean, what they did was, I mean, it's fine. It makes sense what they did. I have another suggestion. And I mean, I'm not talking about Changli, but I think we could kind of learn from Changli in a way, because I think the main thing is Changli is going to be so a lot better once more fusion teams are out there, and everybody who says Changli's god, like all those, that's going to all even like just amplify to the next level once there's more fusion characters she can be used with, because it's not even going to matter if another, like it does say main damage dealer here, so she probably can is obviously able to do that, but it's obviously has fusion damage amplification. So Changli is going to be relevant for a really, really, really long time. Like we're talking years from now, because she can amplify fusion damage, and so the next time we get like a fusion character that's like, let's say, like I think your name's Chixia or Chixa, her on basic steroids pretty much. Like let's say a Carlotta version of that does fusion damage, and then you have Changli to mix in with that. Uh, yeah, she's just gonna. So like, even though her kit might have not been the best at the beginning, there's longevity in her kit to where it's gonna do a lot. Like you could almost technically you could probably put her in electric teams with like XLY and stuff like that, because she does resonance liberation damage amplification. Now, what I was thinking might have been better, and this obviously I'm not like directing this directly towards Changli, and um, we'll go into my paint thing. So I kind of wanted to give the credit to, well, not credit, but Saint Ontis. Sorry if I bummed your name up if you see this video. He's kind of the one who kind of pointed this out about how Changli and Camellia probably should have had their kits changed, and it does make sense, because just as early as Changli came out, the doesn't really make sense for the fusion damage buff amplification. It'd be better if she's just main damage. Now what I'm gonna go with is, let me just do fix something. I already kind of fixed it with Camellia's picture head on this, but I'm gonna delete this out right here. So during this story we have Spectral Rover, and we have, well, Rover can be Spectral or Havoc, and then Jinshi can be Spectral, and then Changli's fusion obviously. Now what I'm getting at is, why does Changli have to boost fusion damage? You know what I mean? Why couldn't have she boost? I mean, she could still boost fusion damage, don't get me wrong, but why can't we have a fusion character or a glacial character that's like out here boosting Spectral or Havoc? Like, it's kind of like the same way, like, basically the argument I seen, or not argument, the suggestion I've seen was, it'd be better if she had a main DPS type kit, like an actual thing that's going to amplify her with basic attack, and then we'll have Camellia where she would boost Havoc damage. Well, why don't we just keep this as a fusion character, but then say she could have boosted Havoc, or she could have boosted Spectral, or I would almost say all three, but that'd be a little bit OP, but it would definitely keep her viable. But if she could have done that, she would have been really relevant in the story, and or not story, the actual gameplay. Even if we just let her do one, let's say she's good, and then you have Jinshi, or because I'd almost say let her boost Havoc, but I feel like having her and Camellia as a Havoc team would be a little bit overpowered in my opinion. And obviously, if you have them boosting more than an element, it would be overpowered. But what if we, instead of her boosting, doing a obviously fire fusion amplification, we had her boosting spectral damage? She could have been used with Jinshi. She could have been used with Rover. I mean, we could have had stuff with Shorekeeper coming out and Verena getting those amplifications, and that would, in my opinion, I think that would have worked pretty well. And like have, and I mean, you would almost say, well, then you would have had to pull her when Jinshi was out, and yeah, I agree. But like, if you look how they re-put out the characters again, like you could have waited and got her then. And I mean, everybody hates waiting, but that's all and whatever. And but I think future characters, like, I don't want to always have to just use Changli on a fusion team. And I think people kind of do want to be able to use different characters with different characters. Like, let's have, I think going forward, something like a Changli that boosted spectral damage, but she's a fusion character, or a Camellia that can be on a Havoc boosting fusion characters team, could actually be like, let's say Scar, for instance. I didn't even think about putting Scar on here, but it would kind of make sense. Let's say Scar is a fusion character, but he can boost Havoc damage. And let's go up on here real quick. So let's type Scar up here, and we'll copy him onto the thing real quick. And so we'll put him right here since we're kind of done. So say we have Scar, and he's a fusion, but he actually buffs let's say Havoc damage. Like, he could have a similar kit to Changli, but instead of being main damage, he boosts his Havoc, and you got like a Changli partner right here. And or like how they kind of have Brant coming out, and I heard somebody kind of state that Brant isn't technically gonna be for Changli, it's gonna be for a future fusion, and I'm assuming Scar's either got to be fusion or Havoc. Like, that's just what I'm thinking. But it would be kind of cool to see him having the fusion appearance, and then we were able to get his echo form thing. But it's like geared towards boosting the Havoc damage. So we're talking Havoc booster, but fusion damage. And I can't even put that back on right. And I think that could really benefit like everybody. Like, it would be a cool, like, instead of having to worry about like, oh, I did Havoc damage on this, now I'm going to switch over to fusion and it burns faster. We would have, I did fusion hits, now I'm going to switch and it's going to amplify Havoc damage or spectral damage. And like, I really think this would have been nice for somebody like Changli, because she's with these two most of the time, and they both have Spectro. So she could have easily been that Spectro amplificator while being a fusion type dealer, while this could be a possibility as Scar boosting Havoc damage, and then like you'd have that. It just like it give an array of options here. I mean, you have he could honestly boost Havoc Rover too in that way too, because you have these Fractionists. They're so obsessed with these Havocs. They kind of hinted like a timeline where Camellia would be a Fractionist, but Rover saved her. And then you have Changli. I really think, like, if you had to give her another type, I think Spectral would have been an amazing type. Just like when you kind of look at Scar, you assume Fusion and Havoc. You look at Rover, you see that Spectral and Havoc, obviously, until we get that, what is that, leaked Aereo form, which I think Aereo is definitely the best way to go with Rover in the future. But I really do see Changli with this Spectral and Fusion type stuff, and I think that would have maybe been a more beneficial way to do her. Instead of buffing Fusion damage, you have her buff Spectral damage, and so I do like what Saintontas. I fucking bummed his name up so bad. Saintontas. I can't even say it. Said about the Changli and the Camellia thing. Like, I really do think what he was saying makes sense. Like, from a team standpoint, like, obviously Changli mains know how to play her, so they know what they're doing. But from a team standpoint, I think, like, just for synergy, she really doesn't have anybody she has that good synergy with right now, like to where you can do fusion and liberation at the same time. And I don't know if her and Camellia's kits would solve that issue, or if it could maybe create more issues. But I like Camellia the way she is. But I do think Changli could have, like, after watching his video, I do see what he's talking about, and I think she could have been a perfect opportunity for Kuro Games to do a fusion type that boosts Spectral. I think Scar is a perfect opportunity to do a fusion type that boosts his Havoc damage instead of other fusion types. Because then this is going to create a more better team building, in my opinion. Like, we shouldn't always have to have Havocs boosting other Havocs, or fusions boosting other fusions. We should have these opportunities, and I know it's still early on in the game's life, so maybe this is kind of something they will do, but I think they would have been better taking this opportunity with Changli, and it would have made her more viable, like, especially with, I mean, I'm basically putting these two together at that point, Jinshi and Changli, just as another option to be able to use with her to boost her Spectral damage. But even Rover and her could have been useful with each other, and other teams might have been used to do this. But you can tell me how bad I bummed his name up. Sorry, man. I was just saw your video, and I know it's been about a week or so since I watched it, but I just thought it was a good video, and I kind of wanted to elaborate a little bit more on how we could have a lot more opportunities with possibly making resonators not just buff the damage or buff other damage versus the damage they currently are. If you guys liked the video, I don't know if there's really much else to say on this. I mean, I kind of said what I wanted to. I don't want to make like an hour video over something that's just more of a wannabe thing that I think would be cool to happen, because I think this could help with echoes and stuff too, or bringing out new echoes like that might be built for a fusion character, but then their outro thing is buff the next Havoc character or Spectral character in your party, or give that buff to that damage in the party. Um, Tell me what you guys think. Do you think Changli would have been cool if she'd been a spectral buffer while still being fusion? Do you think Scar should be a fusion that buffs havoc damage? Do you think like any of these guys' kits should have been changed around? What other characters do you think could do more with something like this? I mean, you could even say Zeishi would have been, but that would have been a little overpowered if she had boost spectral damage instead of glacial, because then she'd have just been the perfect side character for her. So the fact they didn't do that is good, because I mean they already do that, like coordinated attacks, liberation, stuff like that. So it wouldn't be bad, like to even say Sanhua, or I think that's how you say her name, did a fusion boost to damage instead of the, like if she, we can pull her up too. If Son, because I mean, just imagine if she did like havoc damage instead of the fusion damage. Like she would have been literally the perfect. I mean, she's already pretty much the perfect partner for Camellia. I mean, I know people say Rosia is, but I mean Rosia is really good with Camellia too. Don't get me wrong, but I really think like her, if they made a Havoc version of her, just everything besides boosting Havoc and then Havoc attribute, like that would be like an OP partner for Camellia. And we can already see like even Contarella is going to be Havoc, Rectifier. Um, she's going to be a good character. I wouldn't say she's ideal for Camellia, but if you're doing an all Havoc team, that's definitely going to help with that. But yeah, let me know what other characters do you guys think could benefit from something like this, or what characters do you think they should put out that would do something like this, or like what characters do you think should like need something like this? Like what characters would you like to see that would have somebody who might do, I don't know, glacial damage but boost electro or something? Just my thoughts on the video, just like my thoughts. And I mean, I'm not saying it won't ever happen. I just think Kuro Games is just kind of very starting to put out characters, because this could even be something like a 4-star character does, like boost, have like a certain damage, not be as strong and damaging, but be able to at least give that buff of amplification to, like, I mean, we already have a 4-star character who does something like the basic damage, and then I think she boosts glacial, maybe not. I'd have to recheck on her. But if you had her and she also boosted havoc instead of glacial, just the amount of team compositions I think would be really amazing with this kind of way to do things. And I know it's early in the game's life, so I'm sure it will come into play. But I think that's how, like, if it was me and I wanted to make Changli really usable at the beginning of the game's life, I would have had her boost another damage type other than fusion. I would have probably went with spectral damage, to be honest, just with the characters they had out at the time, Rover and Jinshi. I think it would have been a lot better. Or glacial damage might have helped too, or have, it would have been either, I mean, I wouldn't say glacial. Glacial could be good if you wanted to use her in a team with like this, but I think spectral or havoc would have been the better two to try to use to buff her damage and stuff. It's not even her kit's bad. Her kit might be perfect, but it's just the fact she's buffing a fusion, and there's no fusions who can actually, I guess, really work the way they need to work with it. That will be the end of the video though, so thanks for watching everybody, and sorry I bummed up a few names. I'm not the best at that stuff. I kind of read and kind of say what I want to say, and it's usually not something that's even related to what it is. Um, but that's all with my video. Thanks for watching.